You're absolutely going to love today's guest. If you don't know him by name, you're definitely going to know the band he was in, and you're going to have rocked out to their music. He's an absolute legend. I'm so grateful he gave up his time to come have a chat. There's a lot of laughs in here. There's also strong language warning. Enjoy. Today, I'm very excited to have a very special guest with me, Steve Jocz. Now, most people probably know you as Steve-O32.
That's right.
And what I'm going to delve into today with you is a few different things. We're going to touch lightly on a small little band that you're in called Sum 41.
Well, was in.
You're still the heart and soul of it. Don't lie. Don't lie. Now, just firstly, you recently had to go overseas and be the drummer for the Vandals. Tell me about that.
Well, thanks for having me. I am friends with those guys, and so their drummer's Josh Freese, who's a drummer for the Foo Fighters, and then their other drummer's Brooks Wackerman, who is the drummer for Avenged Sevenfold. And then the third drummer they use is this guy, Derek Grant, who's in Alkaline Trio, although he recently left. He was in the Suicide Machines. And then if he's busy, they call me. And, I've always been a huge fan of them, and we're friends. And they were going to Japan, which is one of my favorite countries that we used to tour when I was in Sum 41. And I hadn't been back since I left. And so I thought, they're going, like, I'll go. I just get a free trip to Japan. So it was terrific. I flew to LA and I did 2 rehearsal days, and then we got on the plane, flew to Japan. Dave Quackenbush, the singer of the Vandals, couldn't go because he had a business thing or something that interfered. And so they got this guy, Christian Jacobs, who's the lead singer of the Aquabats, to fill in. And I'd never met him before, but he's fluent in Japanese. And so I don't know if Dave will ever be able to go back because it went so well. I don't think anybody knew because they haven't played there in 20 years, but it was just so funny watching him and Warren, the guitar player. Like, Warren would tell him to translate things, and he would just shout at the audience. And they were all, Japanese audiences are amazing, but, they're often quiet when you're not playing the song. And they were it was great. They were laughing and stuff. It was really fun. It was a great show. I thought our show was great. The audience was great because it's not always the case. Like, if they like you, they'll go crazy. If they are like, they'll be very polite, but it can be a bit cold. But they loved us, and it was awesome.
Yeah, nice.
And then I only had to play 50 minutes and I got 5 days in Tokyo. So
yeah, amazing.
So it was good. It was fun. That was fun.
And were the Vandals like a favorite band of yours growing up and things?
No. What happened? Because like growing up, meaning we started the band when I was about 15, and we were really into like NoFX and Pennywise, Offspring, bands like that. I don't know if we ever really had heard the Vandals. And then when I was 18, we recorded All Killer No Filler, our first record, and Jerry Finn, the producer, gave us a copies of the record he produced of theirs called Hitler Bad Vandals Good. And then we just became huge fans. And then about a year or 2 later, we went on Warped Tour, and they were on it, and we watched like every day. We would watch them, and particularly for me, watching Josh play, because he's so good. And then he would go off and tour with A Perfect Circle or whoever his other band was at the time. He's on tour with A Perfect Circle now. And Brooks would fill in. And I'd be like, who are these people? Yeah. And so I just did another podcast, like a drum podcast the other day, and they were talking about influences. And that was a major thing for me in my playing, was just like watching those 2 guys in particular. It helped my playing a lot. But me and Dave, all of us love the Vandals, but me and Dave Branson were probably the bigger fans. And then, I don't know, like I probably became like closer friends with them for whatever reason. Like, our wives are all friends. And so I don't know. We just started hanging out more and more. So it's great. Anytime they want me to go, I will go.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan, but it's just fun because they're really fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
So, that it was great.
That's amazing. So, working back for a minute, we'll jump back. So you grew up in Canada.
Yeah.
You kind of started Sum 41 when you were about 15 or so.
14 or 15. Yeah.
Yep.
1996, around there. So maybe 15, 14.
And then, so you did your first, kind of Half Hour Power is kind of the first one, or did you do that second?
No. It went Half Hour Power, which was our first EP, or was it an EP? First album with, I think, before we officially were with Island Def Jam.
Yep.
But I know we were working with them in some way. So that was the first thing that came out, and it was because the single was all Makes No Difference, and that we filmed the video in Toronto. But that's when we were on Island, but Flat Lip hadn't come out yet. So that was our first record, and then it went All Killer No Filler, and then Does This Affected Chuck, and so on.
So with you being so young, then you're kind of 18. You've got All Killer No Filler comes out, and you guys kind of blow up deluxe. What are you thinking as such a young you're still a boy at that stage, young man? How are you taking that all in and coping with just the wildness of that ride? I
don't know if we spent too much time thinking about it. It was very much in the moment, and so you just are. Just as every day was just like a party, and we tried. I mean, you don't reflect, I think, at that age, or at least I didn't. You have nothing to compare it to, right? It's just that seems normal because that's what you're doing, and you don't know that is very abnormal for other people. I mean, I just think back on those days, and it was very fun, but I don't remember really dwelling on it much. I mean, there might be like a time we'd be like, this is weird. Like, I'm in a hot tub with Tommy Lee right now. How did that happen? Like, there was moments like that when you go, isn't this strange? But most of the time, that's just what you're doing. And I think we handled it pretty good. For the most part. I think going back, I probably would have partied less. But I mean, you have to kind of make all those mistakes when you're young, and then hopefully you come around and go, okay, I'm going to give my liver a break now. But that was I don't remember at the time really reflecting all that much, because I don't think young men generally do that.
No, we have no idea. Our frontal lobe
the prefrontal cortex is still, growing. It's not quite there yet. You can't even rent a car. Yeah. I couldn't even drive a car. There were so many things that I couldn't do because I graduated high school and we got signed three months later or something like that. And then you go, and then you've got like a handler, or there's a tour manager who you just, is just like an exhausted parent, like shouting at obnoxious children all the time. And I didn't, when I met my wife, she was like, how do you not know how to mail a letter or sign a check or I didn't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So there's you can remain like a stunted child well into your adulthood if you choose to. So I don't know. We handled it all right given the time, I think.
Is it so you guys were you'd say the four of you were best mates?
Yeah.
Was it just
we had other friends and stuff too, but I mean we were all friends, and I mean at the time it was great. Like we all got along really well. And, we were all in the same friend scene, right? So, even though Cone came into the band later, we hung out with... Dave and Cone were in different bands that we would go and have concerts in our friend's basement, or do a battle of the bands together in the city, and we'd all go down together. And it wasn't until... I can't remember. Derek and I were like, we got to get Dave. We need Dave. And he was in a band called 747, which was like a Rage Against the Machine cover band. But he was always really, really good. And we were like, we need to get Dave in the band. And I can't remember why he was a holdout for a minute. But eventually he joined, probably because I'm annoying or whatever. But he joined, and he was great. And then we went through a ton of bass players. And then we had this one guy named Richard Roy, Twitch, and he... we went on tour. We went on our first East Coast tour in a van. This is before we had any major label interest or anything. And I was 16, 17, and I remember my mom, this is the advice my mom gave. I'm going to tell you guys. This is the advice my mom gave me as I went away from my first tour as a 16-year-old boy. we're about to get into his Dave's dad's Ford Econoline van with all our stuff in it, and all our gear and everything. And my mom and all the moms were on the driveway of my house, and they're all crying. And I go to hug my mom. She pulls me in, and she goes, "Just double up, goddammit." So wear 2 condoms, you disgusting pig, is what my mom's advice. And so anyway, we go on this tour, and Rich is driving. Again, I don't know how to drive a car. Rich is driving the van. He a couple months earlier, he had wrapped his teenage boy car with like the spoiler and like that thing, like around a telephone pole or something like that, drag racing it down the street. Anyway, one day we're in Eastern Canada. It's raining, and we get we're crossing the intersection on the way to this little club we're playing, and we get T-boned by a truck, like a pickup truck. And so the whole car, like the van's totaled and everything's smashed to pieces. My drums are all over the street. And I think he was so terrified, this guy, this bass player, about the previous wreck, that now he's got 2 car accidents under his belt. His rate's gonna go through the roof or whatever. He was like, I'm quitting. So he quit, and then we got Cone, who was in another band with another guy named Cone. So we stole Cone from Cone 2's band. Cone joins our band. Cone 2's mad at us. And then we got signed like 2 months later or something like that. So Cone had some impeccable timing there. That's I don't even know how we got on this rant, but that was you said the touring. Right, okay. So the first tour that was our experience on the first tour. It was like we got into a car accident. My mom, I lied to her. I was like, "Oh, we picked up a few extra dates." And and then very shortly after that, we started to get interest from major US labels. So, and then we went on tour for real and had a van with a trailer, and we did that for a few years, and then finally we got a bus. And that's sort of how we graduated. But it did happen very quickly, from 15 years old to 18 in a bus. Yeah. So 4 years, 3 years.
It's super impressive. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How quickly did the business of music start to kind of like grind away at you? Like, is it suits just coming down at you guys going, you need to do this and this and this? No.
There was originally, and I'm glad we signed with Island Def Jam, because there was no okay. There's a time where there were certain people at the label who were like, "Why would you do this?" But our A&R guys, Louis Largent and Rob Stevenson, like totally got it. The marketing people totally got it. All the way up, pretty much everybody got it. The only song that I think, and I've said this in a couple of interviews, is that we really wanted Fat Lip to be the first single. And I vaguely remember some people saying like, "Well, why don't you go with In Too Deep? It's such a no-brainer." And we were like, we really want it to be Fat Lip. And I think in hindsight, that was the better move. But everybody, because we signed with Island and they were like almost a new label, they were trying to get back into rock. And so there was us, American Hi-Fi, Saliva, and some other bands that they'd signed, and they're all kind of like baby bands. Everyone was really hungry and like wanted to make it work, and they got our sense of humor. And so at first there was really no pushback. The only argument I remember was trying to get Fat Lip first, which I think worked out. My line in Fat Lip, which is, Dutch and my mom should have had an abortion. I remember arguing to keep that in because they wanted somebody in legal was like, those were the people. It was like this unknown, faceless person in legal who you'd never meet or never know. And they would kick stuff back up and be like, you can't do this, you can't say this or whatever. And then we would say, well, we really want to, and this is why. And then the team would go to bat for us. And the guy who ran the label at the time was Leor Cohen, who was the Beastie Boys, I think, manager. He was very integral in their career. And so he got it. He got the sort of attitude and the self-deprecating humor and all that stuff. And honestly, saying abortion on the radio isn't that bad, but I'm sure there's certain places in the US where they don't even want to mention it.
Yeah.
So there weren't that many, like, it wasn't like you were dealing with a guy in a suit. The one guy I remember who was a guy in a suit loved us. I can't remember his name, but I don't even know what he did, but they would just be like, "Hey, Jim," or whatever his name was. He wants to see you, and I would go in and I would just make this guy laugh. They'd be like, "Go make this guy laugh." Go in, make him laugh. He loved us, and then we would leave, and that was it. And I can't remember what he did there, but he was the closest thing to like a suit.
Yeah.
Everyone else was like, the president of the label, was the manager of the Beastie Boys. Smart guy, like very shrewd businessman, but still, like not what you would think as like a record label president. The other label that was interested, well, we had a bunch, but the other label that was interested in signing us was Interscope. And the president at the time was this guy, I think his name was Tom Wally. Also, cool guy, like British guy. He didn't look like a suit. But we all felt that there was some kind of like pissing competition between these labels. It's like, oh, they really want this band. I'm going to get them. And then our suspicion was at the end, if we signed with Interscope and they won, like they might have just been like, we won that. We got other stuff to deal with. They had other bands. They had massive bands. Ireland didn't really have any big bands at the time. And so I'm glad we made this choice, which was to go with them because they didn't have anything else to distract them. So there weren't any issues with suits or like corporate. That came later.
Okay.
When the label regime changed. So Half Hour Power, All Killer No Filler, Does This Look Infected, and Towards Chuck, it was all the same people. And then, that's a long time for, I think, people to stay. I think Olivia Tortella, who was our marketing person, ended up being the president of Warner or something like that. Like, they all did so well that they went and did big things. Rob Stevenson, our A&R guy, ended up doing The Killers, I think, and Fall Out Boy, like massive bands. Like, everybody took off, and then they move around. And then it changed. And when it changed was when L.A. Reid became the president. L.A. Reid, who's a pop guy, and he just was like, what is this, And it was also kind of before, I think, the internet allowed people who like this kind of music, like you don't need MTV anymore, you don't need the radio. Like, I mean, it's good, I'm sure you do. I don't really know, but you can get by with just the internet. But at that time, it wasn't as big of a thing as it is now, and so. People were still thinking, okay, we got to get radio, we got to get MTV, we got all these things. And I think L.A. Reid was like, I get Beyonce, I get La Gaga, I get that stuff. Who the hell are these bozos? Like, I don't get it. And so that's when I feel like it changed a bit. And we probably stayed at Island. I think you owe them records based on the deal, but we probably should have parted ways then. Right, but we didn't, and I think and then I left in 2013, but they've had a couple different label changes since then, and I don't know anything about that. I just remember our experience for when I was in the band, and it was like, when L.A. Reid, and nothing against L.A. Reid. I mean, he's like, I don't know the guy, but I understand if I was a pop guy and I was like a producer in that world, and these, rapping punk rock kids from Canada, I just don't know if he'd be like, this doesn't look like hundreds of millions of dollars to me. What do I care, Whereas like Beyonce or Gaga is a different story.
So what do you reckon from that period of time in your life? What's your fondest memory?
Of which period?
Just of touring.
I mean, the whole thing is, there's moments that are, like we did the MTV Icon thing with Metallica. That was great. Playing with other people, like Iggy Pop was great. Just touring and seeing the world. Like, there's no specific thing. Weirdly, towards the end of my time in the band, one of the things I liked the most was just how much sightseeing you got to do. So we'd have days off. We were in Europe all the time. And I would sometimes stay a few extra days after the tour to just go and see, like, all of Moscow and all of the war memorial stuff, or go through all the different churches and museums and whatever in Germany or wherever. I love doing that. That was great. And some shows just stand out as being particularly fun, or certain venues are fun. Meeting people that turn out to be cool, that you knew before, when like you admired their band or whatever. That was fun. I don't know if there's any specific thing, but there are little moments like that you can look back on fondly because it's like not everybody gets to do that.
Yeah, I can imagine you're working your ass off. Obviously, you're playing lots of shows, you're touring heaps, so it's lots of time in hotels and buses and things. But I can imagine it's almost like being paid to travel the world.
It absolutely is, and it's some trips are better than others because Japan and Asia and Europe and places like that are new and exotic and different and fun. But then like no shade against the Midwest, but it's like you're like, okay, we're in Cincinnati. I love Cincinnati, don't get me wrong, but it's like it's like some days you're in Poughkeepsie, New York, and another day you're in Beijing. It's like one's gonna be more. This is crazy. But it depends. I love touring the U.S. as well. I mean, it was fun just being able to go and see all the different states, and we did that so many times. And eventually, you discover places you're really excited to go back to. Like Japan, absolutely was a place where I can't wait to go. And we would sometimes go twice a year.
Yeah, wow. So you haven't dragged the family back to Japan or anything?
We almost, for this Vandals thing, we almost did, but it was in the middle of the school year, and it was only going to be 6 days. So I'd rather just go. My one son's 13, the other one's 10. And so when the 10-year-old's a little older, because they just fight all the time. I'm not spending money to have them fight in Tokyo when they can fight here. So there's not like... my wife is desperate to travel more and do stuff. And in a way, like I because I've done so much of it, I'm like, yeah, really? Why?
You've got to press reset. You've never done it. You've never done it.
So I mean, I would like to, and because I'd love to take my son's really into history. I'm into history, and so I'd love to take him to Europe again and go look at some of the stuff that I remember enjoying, but. They're still a bit too little. And because we live here and their family is all on the other side of the planet, it's like you have to, in a way, prioritize that. And then, and then the other stuff kind of gets delayed further and further. But at some point in the future, we'll start doing that a bit more.
Yeah, nice.
But I think for Japan, my one son is obsessed with Japan anime, manga stuff and all that. He wants to go so bad. So I brought them back a bunch of, trinkets and things like that, but it's not the same thing.
Do you, have they asked many questions about, Dad's former life, former career?
Not really, because they don't, I don't think my 10-year-old really even knows what a band is, really. And my 13-year-old, he's 13, he's 7. This was funny, because the other day, he was, I don't really talk to them about anything. They know I play the drums, but, my one son was coming up the driveway singing In Too Deep. And I was like, that's my band's song, right? And he was like, that's you? You guys did that? I was like, are you pulling my leg here? What are you talking about? I didn't know if he knew, and he was, I could never tell. But he was like, no, all the kids at school are singing it. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I showed him the video for the first time, and I was like, oh, this is it. He'd not seen it. So, I mean, sort of, I guess. I don't really know.
Yeah.
So, and I don't really want them going around telling. I don't want somebody to come rob our house and steal my drum kit. So I don't want.
Yeah.
I don't want too much of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, they sort of know. I think the 13-year-old knows.
See, so obviously my children kind of see me doing editing and filming and stuff, and we'll drive past a billboard and they're like, oh, Daddy, was that yours? And I'll be like, okay, yeah, that's Daddy's. But when I'm doing editing and things, my 6-year-old will come in and be like, hey, Dad, if I follow your kind of career path, do I have to do the editing part? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, nah.
Yeah.
So you can kind of inspire them to not be you as well.
Well, that's right. I mean, neither of my kids, they just, at the moment, they don't seem to have much interest. They like music, and they're good with melody. They sing the songs, and we listen to so many different kinds of music at home. The other day, my 9-year-old was he was just cleaning up or whatever, and he was going, blue skies, on to me, what are the blue skies, what do I see? It's that's an old song.
Yeah.
Why are you singing that song, right? And so they have, because we like older music as well, and so he's got like a little catalog that's a bit more than just like what's modern and like cool now. He's aware of different things, so it's in his mind, but he has no interest in like sitting down and learning it. But I didn't start playing the drums till I was about 12 anyway.
Yep.
And my older son, he's like he's like boxing now, so like that's all he's like constantly exercising. I don't know where the hell this came from. Constantly exercising. He goes to the boxing gym 4 days a week.
Yeah, wow.
That's what he's into at the moment. And so I don't care. Like, that just shows that he can get into something.
Yep.
He's into thing, and he picked it himself, and he's super into it. That might change. Maybe when he's 15, he's like, I want to be a DJ, or he wants to be a guitar player, or whatever. If he has that in him where he can just focus on it, which is good to know that it's there. But I don't push it. I think I played drums with my older kid a couple times, and he picked it up pretty quick. But they've never been like, hey, can I go downstairs and on jam or whatever? Yeah. And I've said, like, I'm like, dude, pick whatever you're into. Pick something. Like, it doesn't have to be right now, but like, we started being in bands when we were 12, and we were signed, 6 years later.
Yeah.
Like. In that period, we'd gotten good enough that an American big-time label was like, let's do it. Now, that's not going to happen to everybody. It was like a luck and preparation all combined together. But, don't just sit around. I'm like, don't just sit around and play Minecraft your entire teenage years, because, you could be getting, it's hard to play Minecraft. You have to get really good at it. I'm like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Not the same thing.
But what shits me off about that as well? They could come to you with an example saying, no, Dad, this kid makes $1 million a year playing.
That's true.
Shit.
I know. And I know that kid because he's on TV, because they watch the kid on YouTube playing Minecraft and just shouting. And I hate that kid.
Little bastard.
But if I was that kid's age, today, I'd be that kid.
Yep.
I'd just be on shouting on YouTube while I play Minecraft.
Getting paid to do it.
Getting paid to do it. I can't remember his name, but there's one they watch all the time. And there's this woman just shrieking, and then the guy yelling, and they're just playing the video. I'm like, well, this is so, people are dumb.
I must admit, I'm avoiding Minecraft for as long as I can with my kids. I'm just like,
yeah,
until they come home
then they
and
grow
bring
out
it
of it. Then they grow out of it. My older son was so into it, and now he's just like, it's just as long as they grow out of it, it's fine. I think the other one's into something else, but I don't know. You got. One reason the one thing I like about Australia, mate, is that there is a bit more of an outdoorsy culture here, and there's a freedom that kids have that, where at least for where we were living in the U.S., they weren't really able to go out. Like the equivalent, some of our friends, not all of them, but a lot of our friends who have the same age kid where we were living, it's like they're still kind of on play dates and stuff like that. Maybe just because of where they live or whatever, but the parents are involved organizing who they're hanging out with. Whereas my kid just goes now. And that's what, I wanted that. That's why we ended up here, really, because they have the ability to do that. So yes, they're playing Minecraft, but then also they go, do stuff.
Yeah.
And my older son, like, I don't even know what he's doing. I hope he's doing good things, but, he's like, I'm going out.
I saw someone setting fire around the corner.
Yeah, it might have been. But, he was dealing pot on the other street.
A business.
Yeah.
He's
got an entrepreneurial spirit. But, I mean, like, he'll just go. And I'm like, okay, come back when it's dark. And the fact that I can say come back when it's dark, nobody says come back when it's dark anymore. So that's sort of why we ended up here.
Yeah, that's the way childhood should be.
Yeah.
Where possible.
Well, that's how you get adults who are, capable of just handling their own shit. Like if you can go out and like do whatever you want with your friends and you guys deal with it yourselves, you'll figure out how to deal with things on your own. And then when you're a grown up, you can do it. The other day, my son went to Sydney for the first, like we live outside of Sydney, but he took the train by himself, went to the city, met up with my sister-in-law, but that was like a big thing.
Yeah.
I can't imagine sending my son on a train to LA and like just go and meet a family member. Not that there's anything like I like LA, but it's a different can of worms. It's just a different lifestyle.
By the sounds of the different stories I've heard with the US and things, I'm hoping Australia stays Australia and we can just be as relaxed as we are. And
yeah, I mean, yeah. I do think one of the things that I hope people recognize, like, it is what's going on here is pretty unique given some of the other, like, because I've lived in Canada, I've toured around or lived in the States for a long time, and it's like, I don't know, people just seem happy. Like, people are happy, and the kid, like, I'll go and you just see these kids, there's no parent around, they're just popping wheelies on their bikes. Like, you don't see, where we were living, like, you don't really see kids riding on bikes. You see adult men riding on bikes because they don't have a car. Like, and they look sketchy, and you're just like, why is that guy on a BMX bike that's way too small for him? Whereas here, you just see that, like, the kids just go to the ocean there and they just throw a fishing line. It's so idyllic. So I'm all for it, man. And the no tipping. I went out the other day, like, because everything's so expensive now.
Yeah.
But because I was telling you before, we were in Noosa, and like, drinks are $20 a drink now or whatever, but you don't have to tip, which is nice. So you're paying 20 Australian dollar dues, or dollar bucks, but you don't have to tip, and the service is still nice. Like, people are generally nice, and they just want to have a chat and a joke and a little ribbing. I like the casual busting each other's balls, which is endearing.
That's 90% of my conversations out and about is just me being an absolute tosser.
Yeah.
Hilariously, in my head.
Speaking of tosser, that's it. Because my wife and I always laugh about the just like, if there is a sexual innuendo and that can help you sell something, you guys cannot resist. And my favorite, and I was talking to my son the other day, for people who might be watching who aren't in Australia, the government of Australia was like, all right, we've got a litter problem, mate. There's rubbish everywhere, mate. What do we get? So that somebody was like, what about don't be a tosser? And my son the other day, my son who is Australian but is from America and has like an American accent still, is like, what's a tosser? And I was like, oh, it's a masturbator. It is a person who masturbates, okay? And they're saying, the government is saying, if you throw rubbish not anywhere but the bin, you're a masturbator. Like, that's like the Biden government being like, all right, don't be a jerk off, don't litter. Like, people's heads would, like, grandmothers' heads would be like, jerk, you can't say.
Yeah.
Ah. The government, don't be a tosser. I love that.
Yeah.
Don't be a tosser, you tosser. I mean, it also, anyway, that's fucking hysterical, man. You guys are hilarious.
There'll be an advertising, convention, and it'll be a really successful campaign. They'll be like, yep, that was the right way to do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's perfect, but you guys cannot help yourselves. Yeah. It's like, if it's got to be just a bit naughty, it's crikey. God, tosser.
I must admit, I'm struggling these days. It's getting a little tighter as to how loose we can be particularly at work.
Oh, really? Well, yeah.
And you're just like, I want to say this. Every part of my body's saying, do it.
No, I know.
Don't do it.
No, that's true. And I mean, there's some things too that I find so endearing, and I know other people might not like. But if you're there and you go to the gas station, the petrol station, and the woman's like, "Oh, you're right, love," and she just called me love. I'm like, she called love or sweetheart or doll or whatever. Call me all those things. But some people get offended. I don't know. I don't like it. I like being called love.
Yeah.
Especially by like an 80-year-old woman.
That's my favorite target audience.
Yeah.
The banter you can have with an 80-year-old is just the
great.
best. Yeah.
It's great. I love it. I like all the ribbing, and it's fun. People are funny.
It is a good vibe, and I do find it funny. I've gotten used to being used to rejection in terms of, like, if my humor doesn't rub off on someone, you're just like, okay, one day you'll get it, buddy, and you'll have a good life. But for the moment, let's just part ways. But it just happens.
But most people have. I mean, there's like another one. I don't know if this is the official model, but it's sure on a lot of stickers. Is this to encourage people to visit the Northern Territories? It says, "See you in the NT." So their motto's cunt. to come visit. Like the most offensive word in North America, at least. It's just like you can't even say "see you next Tuesday," let alone the actual thing. And then they're like, "Oh, mate, this is put cunt on the back of your ute." That's nice.
But they had their target audience was ticked.
Perfect.
They smashed it.
Yeah. Oh God. So like that's another one. And it's just like, and there's just so many. I find it very endearing. And because I mean, you know, and in the States, I get it. You know, people like there's the gosh people. You know, people who say gosh or golly. Gosh.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Well, okay. It's the sort of leave it to beaver. I'm like you. Like if I'm around a person who says gosh because they could not possibly say God.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable because I know I can't control myself and it's coming. And I'm like, oh God. And I'm just like, I'm about to put my foot in. I might as well just do it right away. Like, have you ever been to the Northern Territories? Let me tell you.
I've got a sticker for you.
Yeah, I got a sticker for you. Here's a little souvenir.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there was another Northern Territory campaign years before that, which was, it had like bloody in it. It was like, bloody hell or something. They had this model saying, I can't remember the exact slogan, but that one did cause a bit of ruckus because that was going to be played in the US and the US was like, oh, you can't say bloody. It's like,
yeah. And bloody's just like, I like saying bloody. Bloody's fun. But yeah, I like it's sort of casual. It's like fuck patois. Which is something I heard somebody say where it's like basically just saying like fuck all the time. Like fuck this fucking guy, the fucking this. And it was Steven Pinker. So Steven Pinker, well, he's some kind of scientist. I can't remember what. Linguist or linguistics or something like that. And he was talking about how swearing, how the brain works when you swear. And basically one thing is that if you are in an environment where you just start swearing a lot, you're just advertising to everybody like we're comfortable now. You can say anything you want. Yeah. Like there's no prudish things here. Just be relaxed. We're good.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of everywhere here. Like even in front of Nana, like my wife swears. Nana doesn't swear, but everybody else does.
Yeah.
Regardless of gender. Like it's not like the men are foul and the women. Like everybody. And I find it just a bit, at home. I'm like, okay, this is nice.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not pretend that we're not all just a bunch of hooligans here, right?
I still don't swear in front of my mum. I occasionally.
I don't swear in front of my mum.
I have that boundary and I keep that.
That's a complete lie. I absolutely swear in front of my parents all the time, and I don't. I feel bad for it. Sorry, Marg, Phil, but my sister doesn't. I don't think, and she's much better than I am.
Yeah,
but I don't know. When you've been on the road for so long, it's hard to just bury all that. I swear in front of my kids. Yeah. I can't help it. I try not to, but then at some point you reach a thing, you're like, fuck.
Yep.
You can't control it. They make me do it.
They do.
How many kids you got?
3.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we got a 6-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 3-month-old.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
3.
I'm recovering well from the Caesar. I'm doing really good.
You should be recovering from the vasectomy if you take my blood.
I'm a Ken doll down there now. It's smooth as butter. Nothing else is happening. We're good. We just scissor a bit.
Jesus Christ.
But it's a beautiful ride. So 2 girls and a little fella now.
Oh, yeah. So that's you done. You're like, all right, I got my boy.
That's what everyone says. They're like, oh, you must be happy now you got your boy. And I'm like, pretty happy with the other 2 as well.
Yeah, well, I knew some guys, more old school guys, when we lived in America, and he'd like have 4 daughters, and she's pregnant. He's like, I need a boy. I need a boy. So I mean, I have 2 boys, and that's it, and we're done.
Yep.
I'm not having any more than that. I don't think my wife would. It's like I was my idea to have both of them, really. So.
Well, she's got kind of 3 children, really.
Yeah, she's got to do. It's this. We need to get some mix because it's just at this point now. There's just too many dudes. It's nice to have the balance. It really is because right now, like we're foul and we're filthy. Anyway, she's long suffering.
Yep. So that perfect lead into I want to talk about your decision around leaving. Your career, your job, your band, the thing you'd been doing for like almost 20 years. How did you get to that decision, and what was what was your thought process around, okay, this is the right thing to do?
Well, I mean, there was all sorts of reasons, really, but I think the main thing for me is that I had a baby at home, and I was like, I had been touring for a very long time, and I just think, given what the band was doing and the dynamics and stuff, and I had this little dude, and I was just like, that's kind of what I need to do right now, and so I left and kind of focused on him, and then we had the other one right after, and then I was like, okay, I'm doing this now, and it's been great. Like, I like being around all the time, and that's not to say that friends of mine who have kids who are tour a lot are any less of a dad than I am, but just for me, I thought it was important to be there, and I don't think I can't really envision a scenario where I'd just be like, bye, and just be gone for months. Like, especially now, like, I'm around all the time. I'm at home all the time. Like, I'm helpful. I try to be, so it was in hindsight, it was, I don't regret the decision at all. I'm thrilled. We have a great relationship with my kids. Like, they're awesome. It's fun. So even though it was a bit scary at the time because you're walking away from this thing, I'm not very, reflective. I just was like, this is what I'm doing now. And then we made it work that way. And then, we're in the US for however many years with kids. So maybe 8, 9. And I think just with some of the things happening in the US at the time, and then with COVID, then we sort of left again and came here. And then I think we're going to be here for the time being, So there were like 2 big moves. There was like the move away from the band so that I could be with the kids, and then there was the move away from America so that the kids maybe just had a little bit more autonomy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the U.S. and where we lived in Palm Springs, it was awesome. It was really hot, and it made a lot of sense for us when it was just me and my wife, and we were childless and drunk and like having a great time. And you can go to sleep at, in the middle of the night and sleep in past the hottest time of the day. But when you got to get up and go to soccer at 8:00 in the morning and you cross a melting parking lot because, and all the surfaces are like the surface of the sun, it's a bit challenging, and then you get kids who just kind of have to stay inside all the time because it's awful outside. And, so here it's more of a year-round climate, and there's a number of different reasons. There's no guns, like that had an effect on it as well. I mean, as he gets into high school and stuff like that, like, do I really want him having to deal with that? If he doesn't have to, there's another option, and so that's why. Now, that's not to say we might not end up back there at some point, but for now, it makes sense.
Yep.
Every country has its problems, and I love the U.S. It's awesome. It's so fun. Some of my favorite people are from there. Obviously, culturally, some of the greatest things ever have come out of there, music and movies and everything. Funniest people, best comedians, like all that is there. So I don't want to cut ties with it entirely, but for the time being, there's just something in my head of like, if my kid can ride his bike by himself and go fish in the ocean, like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, just go do it.
That's so good. Like, I can imagine that for a lot of people, particularly, being in an international touring band and having all that fame and success and just knowing what you're doing. I love that you chose parenthood. Like, I just think it's so valuable and should be celebrated because a lot of the times people just keep chasing the money, keep chasing the fame.
Listen, money and fame is fine and fun. I was also pretty burnt out at the time too, like physically, mentally. Like, I just was like, I need a break. And sometimes you just need a break. Turns out I needed like an 8-year break, but that's fine too. Like, it's cool to get back into it. And, this is like, thankfully for the internet and stuff, you can get back into it and reconnect with people. And like, everyone's like, yeah, this is great. You're back doing stuff. So that is awesome that there's this new outlet that's available to everyone. But yeah, at the time, I just think having my son and then where I was at personally, mentally and physically, like, I just need a break. So, I don't regret it at all. I think it's awesome. I love my kid. He's awesome. I think he's really everybody says this about the kid, but they're both great, but the one that was alive when I left the band,
Yeah.
like, I'm happy how he turned out. Maybe he wouldn't have turned out this way if I was away all the time. So, so that I'm pleased with that.
Absolutely. And where possible, it's totally important for children's development for both parents to be involved as much as they can.
Well, and another one, my wife's a bit of a worrier. So it's nice to have and I'm not, like, I'm because probably I'm too dumb, but like, like it's a nice balancing. Like, here's an example. So one day he fell off the couch and he hurt his arm. And I was like, he's fine. She's like, I think there's something wrong. And I was like, it's nothing. He barely fell. And then, he's freaking out. And so we gave him an icy pole, a popsicle. And he goes to have it. He can't move his arm. And so I was like, okay, he's broken his arm. I was wrong. I didn't worry enough. But for the one time that he did break his arm, the thousands of other times, I was right.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers that. But here's the other thing, too. Like, it's almost over. Like, he's 13 now. He just turned last week. And, like, almost like clockwork. He's, like, very much wanting to be an individual.
Yep.
He goes off, like I said before, and I want him to go off. But it's like, we're almost done.
Yep.
Like, in a couple years, he's going to be his own person. And in 5 years, he's going to be gone. So, it does happen quickly.
Yep.
And so I don't, like, I'm cool. And it's like, it's easy living. It's like, touring is great. I love touring, but it's a young man's game. Depending on how cushy the tour is too. I mean, some are fun. I love touring. Don't get me wrong, but I don't regret it.
That's fantastic to hear, because I think it's easy to imagine that some people would be like, what was he doing? That's crazy. But
I was there for all the, like, early, like all the big hits in the early days is very much a part of that. I'm proud to have been a part of that. And, like, I get along with the guys and stuff. Everything's cool. It's just, it's not, that was my time there. And then this is like, that's when I was a young man and now I'm an old man. And it's like the very
hey, you're not that old. Hey, come on.
definitive moment. Like, this is where it's all over.
Yeah. And at that time when you did leave, were you surprised by any particular people that kept in contact and, kind of helped you through that kind of period?
I didn't really notice any. I mean, there were some people who, it's like where I just sort of lost contact with them. Because, you just do. It's like, how many of these people are just like drinking buddies?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, he was just a drinking buddy. Now I don't drink anymore, so, like, I don't hear from him anymore. But all the main people, like, totally fine. Not an issue. So I didn't feel anything like that at all. It was fine. Like, Colin, it's like, I talk to Colin 3 times a month. It's not a big deal. But not really. It's just fine. There's just a few people that I think, like, I also kind of went off, and I maybe was the one who shut people out in a way, because I just thought emotionally, mental health wise, like, just for my own, like, it's better to just ignore it. And I went and did other things that didn't have anything to do with that. And so there wasn't this, mixing of like feeling that I was missing out or whatever, because I wasn't paying any attention to it. And I think that was the way that I handled it, and I was fine. But I don't think anybody. It was probably me that shut people out, and not the other way around.
And with that, so you were saying you're burnt out, and you kind of felt for your mental health, you needed to just kind of ignore it all for a while. Were you conscious of, like, how did you get to the point where you're like, I need to change this, otherwise this isn't gonna work out?
I just think it had a lot to do with my kid. And I just thought, this is what I think is important, so I'd like to do that. That's what it was.
Okay.
That was the main thing. And I think, it was just like, he's this, like, new, lovely little thing. I just wanted to hang out with him. And that's it. And that's kind of it. It wasn't like, there wasn't any other decision, I think. I mean, it's in some ways, it's like when you want to make a big decision like that, you have to when you're a kid, it's like nothing matters because there's nothing at stake. You don't have anything. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As you get older, things matter because there's like, if you choose this adventure, like maybe this doesn't happen, and if you choose this one, maybe this doesn't happen. And so how do you make the decision? In my head, I just thought like, okay, what's like a noble truth? Like what's like a universal truth? It's like, okay, you take care of your kid, be involved with your kid. Like no one's gonna argue against that. And so I was just like, okay, that's the answer. Like if everything else is not that clear cut, then those aren't the answers. And that's why I chose that. And that's how I kind of came to be able to make that decision. I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do.
You're
and
a
that's
genius.
Yeah.
Absolute genius.
So you can make it, you heard it here. And so that's a way to maybe like, just like shave off until you finally get to the answer, whatever your choice is. Cause like I said, as you get older, it's like, okay, well, if we sell this house and move here, then like leaving America was another one. And then again, it came down to like, what do you think is going to be the best childhood for our, I remember we were there in COVID and my wife and my kids are Aussie citizens, but I wasn't at the time. And they were, my son was like, when the pandemic's over, can I go to the comic book store by myself? And I was like, you can never do that. Like, you know? Whereas where we are now, like he just goes, like I said before. So I think that helped me make that decision as well. It's like, what's the best thing for him? So there you go.
I think anyone listening to this will also, who are living in Australia, will just go, you know what? We actually do have a bloody great place to live.
You guys, come on. I know everybody likes to go like, I waited for the doctor for like 45 minutes. It's like, dude, you can call, like, I don't know. This is funny. So we moved here and we were just, because it's so the services, like you call and they pick up right away. When I went to go to get my, to start the citizenship process, I went to the police station or whatever, and they were like, you have to go, and talk to the, this, like they have to do like a background check and they have to check with America to make sure you don't have a criminal history, blah, blah, blah. And I put like 4 hours in the meter. Right, like I'm just like I'm gonna be here all day, and I show up, open the door, and there's nobody there. And this like 75-year-old man comes and goes, "You must be Steven." And I go back. He does it like I every time that happens, I just laugh because. Okay, here's another example. I had to go to the Japanese consulate to go to Japan, and I sent my passport to America. And they're like, you can't do it here. You have to do it in Australia. So they sent it to me in Australia. I went there, and the whole thing took like 2 seconds. Like, you just go, and they're like, yep, blah, 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 here you go. And the alternative, just because there's so many people. Nobody lives here. There's only 25 million people?
Yeah.
There's more people. There's almost twice as many people in California. Like, it's just so many people. And so you've got, like, a highly educated, wealthy country where nobody lives here. And so I might be looking at it, and like through rose-colored glasses, but I'm just like, this is a pretty good place.
Yeah.
You guys got a good thing going here. Don't wreck it.
I've got some contacts in tourism marketing. I think we need to get you as the face.
Yeah.
You can be the new cunt.
They're gonna look at me like, we got a new cunt here, mate. Look at this fucker. Yeah. Look at this cunt.
Oh, that's so good. We're pitching it. We're pitching it right.
Oh, God, yeah.
The dance
good
pass
cunt,
next to
though.
it. Yeah.
Not good. Not the bad cunt.
No.
Because it can mean both.
No, there's
a mate can also mean both. It's all in how you say it. I've been called a cunt in a good way and mate in a bad way.
Really?
Oh, yeah, man.
Oh, God.
Oh, fuck yeah. And so it's great. You guys got a good country here. I mean, everybody loves Australia. And the bugs and the snakes, it doesn't matter. That's all. I think that's to keep people away.
Yeah.
Like maybe if you go up, maybe like up northern Queensland or something like that, you get the crocs and things like that. But
that's if you ever do a trip like up to the Cape and stuff, it's absolutely gorgeous, but it's hilarious because you've got these stunning beaches that you can't go anywhere near.
Well, my wife lived in Darwin for a year.
Yeah, right.
And so she was like, you can't go in the water. It's box jellyfish and crocodiles. That's what people think is seeing the NT is what they think. And then, or like a bobcatter country up, where once every month a man gets torn to pieces by a crocodile. Northern Queensland.
I haven't thought about Katter in a long time.
He's one of he's internationally famous. I don't know. Everybody knows that one clip of him though, because it's so out there.
He's hilarious.
Anyway.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Hilariously, you have like touched on almost every point that I'd like written down to ask you and everything, and you just melded it all together in one beautiful little story.
Okay.
But what I want to kind of focus on from here is, as a family unit, what are you guys, looking to do from here? Are you kind of sticking around for a while?
So we're actually building a house like 10 minutes from here, and so the idea is to get up into this region within the next year or so. My wife's originally from Byron and then like got flung all around the world. They moved all around Australia, and then she lived in the US for 25 years, and she's always wanted to be back here. And so we got a little place, like a little piece of land sort of near Lennox here. And it's just taking forever to get the land through and the council and blah, 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 blah. And so we're probably 2 months away from building. Okay. And then we're hoping to be up here, in the next 12 months or so. So, and then, just do this for a while kind of thing. Yeah. So, I mean, we're pretty fluid. Like, I don't know if we're ever set in one place, but if you're going to end up anywhere, this isn't a bad part of the world. No. Like, it's like every time I tell people, like, hey, we're building a place near Lennox Head, they're like, fucking hell. Like, it's nice, And Byron, of course, is stunning. And it's very different from when my wife lived there in, like, the 80s. But I still think it's great. And, the pass is, I'm going to go surfing there after this. Yeah, no. And so it's like, it's a pretty special lifestyle if you can get your foot in the door. So that's the plan for the next year or so. But after the band, I was doing sort of real estate and flipping houses and stuff like that in Palm Springs. And like, I just told my wife, I was like, I do not... Like, I want to pay for someone to build a house and just hand me the keys. Like, don't give me, like, an asbestos-ridden fibro shit shack. Like, I just want, like, here are the keys. So that's what I'm holding out for. But she's probably going to make me build a custom... I don't want to. That's the plan. Next 12 months... The plans are actually with the council now, and so we should hear in like 5 weeks, and then we'll build and then end up here. So my younger son is like, I need to be here now. He loves it here, like water slides and surfing and the ocean. Blah, blah. My other son also likes it here because he loves fishing and doing all that stuff, but he's 13. His girlfriend that he doesn't know I know about is there. It's like where we currently are, and so it's not like that far from where we're at currently, but it's far. Everything's so far here. So I'd be starting over for him, but he's so good at making friends. I'm not worried about it. Yeah. So that's the plan for like our little family over the next, 2 years or so, is to kind of get up here. And then hopefully my wife isn't like, this was a mistake. We got to move again, which could happen.
Yeah.
It could.
Anyway. So what about, tell me, do you have what's your keys to a good marriage?
I don't know if I'm an expert on this.
You need to ask a friend.
I don't know. I mean, listen, man, it's like you got to just find somebody that you like. You can't find somebody that you're just in love with, and like, because all the infatuation and all that stuff will certainly cool off after child 2 for sure. So you got to make sure that you just like this person and you'll put up with their shit. Because the kids will make it worse. That's what kids do. So if you guys aren't solid to begin with, it ain't going to work.
Yeah.
So you got to really like each other before you have kids, because they will do everything they can to ruin your marriage. And it's easy to, it's easy to walk away these days. It's not like in the 40s when they're like, you can't. What would happen?
What would God say?
Yeah, wait, you're burning in hell. And so you got to like the person you marry. And that seems so obvious, but I know so many friends of mine who almost married someone because they fought so much, they thought marrying her would make it better. Buddy, that's a bad idea.
Are you sure, though?
And then if we have kids, it'll make it better. It's like, dude, you are digging this hole. You're digging your own grave. So just like each other. That's my advice. Like each other. And my other advice is just don't listen to people like me, because I don't know anything.
The kids definitely throw life into chaos.
They're manipulative little fucks, but it's like they're lovely and cool, but they're like they're angling for their own survival, man. Like the fact that it's like, oh, everything's relatively safe and abundant now. Like there's still these prehistoric creatures who just need to survive, and they'll do whatever they can. Whether in their mind needing to survive is like playing Minecraft for 10 hours that day, whatever they can do to get what they want, they'll try it, and it'll drive both of you nuts. So you need to, and here's the other thing. Maintain your relationship. This is all stuff other people have said. This is not something
I'm writing this down.
You're ready.
Yeah.
Like you gotta have a relationship where you have things in common that are not the children.
Yes.
So if you go on a date, like I don't want to talk with the kids. I don't want you to talk with the kids. Talk with anything with the kids.
Yeah.
So that I still know you.
Yeah.
And that's it. Those are my two things. Anything else, I don't know.
What I'm hearing from this is unless you really like this person, double wrap.
Yeah. Double wrap it. Double up.
Your
God
mum was
damn
right.
it. Double up. God damn it. Oh God. Yeah. My I don't know. My mom. She's a long-suffering woman.
Were they close to you when you had the first kid? Like, were you able to get their help a lot?
Well, we live in California. They live in Toronto.
Okay.
So not really on the day-to-day, but they would come and visit like 2-3 times a year, and we would get help then.
Yep.
But because of we never really lived around family, so we've never really had that kind of like where you just like drop them off. When we come up here, we drop them off at my wife's mom's place. But you know, we just because we've never really been next to family, we haven't had that so much. But emotional support, and I have a great relationship with my parents. We can talk about stuff, and they can talk to my wife, and we all chat about it. But as far as like, hey, we're going out and we're going to dump the kids off for a week, like. Yeah. Even if we lived down the street, they'd be like, we don't do that. And I don't blame them.
Yeah, they stay in Canada just for that. Like,
Yeah.
Never happened.
Yeah, no, so they're very supportive, but like they just because I live 20,000 miles away, it's hard to just go over for a cup of sugar.
Yeah. We're popping over.
Yeah. There's no popping over. But and I mean, in a way, like we have to be diligent about it because, you know, to maintain that, like every Sunday we call and, you know, we stay connected that way, you know, and so in some ways we have a better relationship now because now we talk more. But when the kids were young, they would come and they would help when they were little. But as much as you can when there's like a flight to get there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Now the other thing I want to chat to you about is where to from here. You've rediscovered drums.
Yeah, I'd like to get into that. And so I'm going to start developing things online for that, whether it turns into teaching or online sessions or whatever. This is what I would like to do this year. So right now I'm more active on Instagram. You can go to TheStevo32 is my Instagram. And then I'm going to have a YouTube page in like the next coming weeks. But I was hoping to get to that earlier, but then I had the Vandals thing and now I'm here. And so when I get back, I'm just going to dig into it. So that should be coming soon.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, that's super exciting. I'm really stoked to have been able to meet you today and have you come along and just pick your brain of that period of time in your life and your family side and you being a dad.
I'm a dad.
And jump on your socials and we'll see what happens next for Steve.
Thanks so much, man.
Beauty.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Beauty.